By shooting it in 65 millimeter, I'm guaranteeing to some degree or another, there will be 70 millimeter film prints out there in the world screening for people who care. 24 frames a second flickering through the projector, creating the illusion of movement. Now, I get questions all the time about people going, okay, so you shot it in 70, right? Yeah. But I mean, most of it takes place inside of a big shack, right? Like a bar kind of way station shack, right? It's all indoors, right? Yeah. And the part that doesn't take place indoors takes place in a stagecoach, right? Yeah. And then they go, well, why shoot it in 70? And I understand the question, but to me that's just a very narrow view of 70. I mean, it basically is just suggesting that the only reason you would shoot 70 is if you just want to shoot mountain ranges or vast desert landscapes, or basically landscapes in general. I mean, that's basically what everyone's saying. If you're going to do this big outdoor movie with a bunch of landscapes and stuff, well, then that would make sense to shoot it on 70. But if it mostly takes place indoors, why are you shooting it on 70? Well, I don't think it's just a format, just made to shoot the Grand Canyon. I don't think it's a format that, like, its only place is the Sahara Desert, or its only place is the Gobi Desert, or the only place is, the Rocky Mountains of Colorado on a big wide vista. I think it's one of the most dynamic, beautiful looking formats that there is. And I've always understood from my very first movie, Reservoir Dogs, which was a scope movie, even though it all took place in a warehouse, and everyone was like saying, well, why are you shooting scope for your first movie if you're just taking place in a warehouse? Well, I actually believe that these big formats actually offer more intimacy, that you can be closer to the characters. It can bring you closer, and it can actually invade the intimacy of the characters in its bigness, in those big close-ups and stuff. But also, it's just the fact that like I said, I don't think it's just a format that's only meant for travelogues. And if that were the case, that would be the case. But I don't think it is. I think it's a very narrow view of the uses of 70 millimeter film, especially when you have somebody like Bob Richardson doing the shooting and doing the lighting. So, we'll see what they say, but hopefully when people see Hateful Eight, they won't ask, why did you bother shooting it on 70? How gorgeous it is, and how vivid it is, and how intimate it is will be the answer. These lenses hadn't been used since the movie Khartoum with Charlton Heston and Laurence Olivier. That was the last time they were used, about 40 years ago. And so Bob is asking about them, and they're telling him, and he's thinking, whoa, this could exactly be what Quentin would like. Quentin would love these. And so he was like, are they any good? Do they work? And they go, yeah, we think so. So immediately, Bob said, then I want these. And so then we immediately went out and started testing them. And shooting tests and putting them under some sort of a stress test because, we were going to be filming in frigid cold where cameras and all that kind of stuff freeze commonly. So we need to be able to know, would it work? How do they look? Do anything needs to be worked on? And definitely there were things that needed to be worked on about them. But they ended up being fantastic for us. And just to give us an idea of exactly what it is we were going to see, Panavision set up a screening of The Chariot Race of Ben-Hur in its original 2.7.6 format. And I realized I had actually never seen Ben-Hur in its original 2.7.6 format. And it was truly, truly amazing. And so, we just decided to go ahead with the lenses until we put them through the stress tests. And if Bob says they were good to go, then we were going to use them. And we did. And we never really had that much of a problem with them at all. They ended up being fantastic. And I think the look that they deliver speaks for themselves. The way the actors reacted was, well, they just thought it was special. I mean, there was one, they thought it was just very exciting that we were shooting in 70, and they thought it was exciting seeing the big camera and the big mag and the big old lenses. And, but you know, almost all the actors that I have in this movie are more older school types. So they like working on film. On film, there was a special magic on a set when you said action. And to the point that the take ran until you said cut. And that was a sacred time. That was a special time. People stopped doing what they were doing and everyone settled down. And this was money. And this was the time. And that's film running through a camera. No one took it for granted. And it was a, yeah, it was a thing.